Welcome back, everyone. Jan, this is officially PMI Shorts episode number 10.
Yay.
We're into double digits. Hey, everybody. We are joined again by Katie Lawrence and Jan Haley. We talked last time about motivation, covered a little bit of the basics about what motivation is, and we promised that we would start diving into this on deeper levels. So today we've chosen um, motivating in difficult situations, difficult times, however you want to phrase that. So, Katie, you were just talking a little bit about it's the first of the year, it's January, things might be difficult.
Yeah, it's a sickness time of year. We are at no shortage for patients across primary care, specialties, the emergency room. It's just a time when there's just lots of volume, and it feels like you can't possibly see enough patients. You can't possibly see everybody who's calling in who needs help. Your physicians are stressed, your staff is stressed, and then you add a snowstorm that keeps people home, or any number of things that, add stress to the whole big puzzle. And yeah, it's hard to want to keep going with a smile on your face.
Ever experienced that, Jan?
Well, yes, we have. So, of course, being in our area in the Midwest, we experience all those things that Katie just mentioned, this, trying to balance the snowstorms. Are we going to be able to see patients? And then I think just even focusing on the beginning of the year, coming down from the highs of the holiday season, trying to move into January. And it's almost like you want to take that deep breath and just slow down, but yet life is busier than ever.
Right, right. There's never that opportune moment for the whole world just to go,
Exactly.
yeah, we're all doing it at different repetition and time. So, Katie, let's talk about it. I mean, it feels like motivating a team. Oh gosh, the words escaping me. It's like there's a pristine plan in place that never goes off pristine.
Exactly.
It's the first step you take is there's a problem, there's an
Mhm.
emergency, there's an issue. So, what are some keys to keeping a team motivated in difficult times?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is to remember that we are people taking care of people, especially in our industry. So when we think about a perfect plan, right? And we want to set up you think about an architect creating a blueprint for this beautiful building, and it can go exactly that way because you have all the materials and the materials show up and they look just like what's on the plan. It doesn't happen in healthcare, right? Everybody's a human. Nobody is, an I-beam. And so when we're dealing with humans, we have to give grace. And so we can set a plan, but I think that oftentimes we get so excited about our plan, or we've put so much work and effort into our plan that we get attached to it. And it's natural and it's normal. And when things go just a little bit awry, it can feel like our whole plan has blown up because if we did shift a building by just a little bit, the whole building would fall over. But that's not who we are as people. And so being able to be a little more nimble, give ourselves a little more grace as we begin to think about leading, maybe where you're leading a change effort as we're leading through, a big patient volume time, or maybe you're planning for a new medical record to come into place in March or April, and you're trying to set these plans now. We want to make sure that we have structure and plans and we've thought of contingencies. But if we get ourselves so fixated on every single thing, it can feel pretty devastating when to any number of people, including ourselves as a leader, but in particular, it can feel to the team like we don't know what we're doing when our plan doesn't go perfectly, and that can be demotivating. It can help cause lack of trust.
There's there's a
So
there's a there's a better word, but I have this mental image of a leader, a team leader, with receptors out. It's like it's
yep.
like I'm monitoring all channels right now to because the plan's in motion. I'm looking for all the kinks in the armor. I'm looking for any deviation from perfect. Um, and I bet it didn't take but about a nanosecond for it to go, oh, there it is.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think it's natural and normal. And in healthcare, we're looking for what could go wrong, which is a good thing, right? We want to make sure that we are looking and planning ahead. I love to think of it like a chess game where you're thinking about what are the anticipated next steps of other parties that are involved in these discussions. Um, and and so we want to make sure that we are being thoughtful about, okay, if I do this, what is someone's likely response going to be, and how can I plan for that? But also, if it's not that, if it's not exactly what I think of, can I think of contingency plans? Am I willing and able to let them be human too? And how do I respond to that? Because I think as leaders, we can get somewhat fixated in our own thinking and thinking that other people think the way that we think. And that's just normal and human. We've only ever had our own experience. And so our own experience seems like the best experience. And as we are thinking about motivating others, giving grace to the fact that other people may have a different experience. I love to think about two people walking down the street, and there's a person walking a dog coming towards them. And one person walking in that pair may love dogs, may have only ever had really positive interactions with dogs, and is excited to see this dog coming at them. And the other person may have had a terrible experience at some point in their life with a dog and may be very fearful and may hesitate and retreat. And giving room for both of those things to have happened as you are the dog walker walking at them, right? Planning that your team, as you are interacting with them about a medical record change or any number of things that could be the dog in the scenario that you are bringing towards this group of people, being open to the fact that they're possibly going to have different responses, different reactions, different things are going to motivate them about that scenario. Some are going to be super excited, and intrinsically, it's just going to get their juices flowing, and they're going to be excited about this, maybe medical record change. Others are going to be naturally hesitant, and it's going to draw them back. And so, what can you do to help them feel more at ease? Do they need more structure? Do they need more information? Do they need more conversations? And so, being willing to tailor your approach just a little bit towards each of the individuals you're coming at.
Katie,
So
I think you brought up a good point that the way we react to situations is based on our personal experiences. I think the story about the dog walker is perfect in that situation because when we're working with a team, each individual is going to have a different experience. And I was thinking back to the last EHR implementation I did, and some folks on the team were very excited because they were looking at progress. They were looking at, this is going to change. It's going to make my job easier. While some others on the team were looking at that with fear. And when you dig a little bit more into why are you fearful, they had a bad experience when they had an EHR change. So I think looking at each individual's past experience is what is important for the manager to be able to understand. How do I motivate this team that has so many different experiences?
So I was thinking about last week, and I know we talked about it feels like in so many different settings, we talk about communication is key. It doesn't matter what subject, communication is always key. And
Mm-hmm.
what's hitting me as you guys are talking is, communication is a two-way street.
Mm-hmm.
Communication is just as much about listening as it is about, and maybe more so about listening than talking. And I go back to those tentacles and those receptors being on. It's like, as a leader, as a team leader, for sure, you got to be listening to a lot of different
Mm-hmm.
inputs, trying to figure out, because what motivates, what scares, what are people apprehensive about? It's out there if you're listening in the right way.
That's
And I
right.
think we also have to listen to those nonverbal cues
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
because a lot of folks on our team they don't verbalize what they're feeling. So we have to be sensitive to that and listen to those as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What are they? Active listening.
Mhm.
that's right. Yep.
So,
Being willing
go
to
ahead.
press for the question in the right way, right? I think it's important when we talk about communicating, especially around a change initiative. It's both about what we're what's going to change, when it's going to change, and what can both of us expect in this change? And are we level setting around our own expectations? What do I expect of you? What do you expect of me? What does that team member expect of me as their leader? And how can we get on the same page about that? Like, do they expect more training? Do they expect more communication updates? Do they expect me to give them one-on-one attention? Do they expect a group and they want to be left alone and figure it out, right? All of those, like, so much of our communication breakdowns are about just misaligned expectations. And so having those kinds of conversations, especially in tense timeframes, like what do I expect of you when we're going through a change? Or what do I expect of you when patient volumes are crazy? Are there things that I can take off your plate as a leader that I don't expect you to do this routine report that you do every week, but it takes 3 hours? But we didn't have 3 hours, and and now I'm yelling at you for overtime, and right. So how can I take things off of your plate too? How can I set that expectation and not expect that you as a team member may be able to make that prioritization decision yourself?
So there's certainly the perspective of motivating or motivation for a team and leading a team. But what about the individual leader? What about the individual person that's trying to keep themselves motivated in the midst of chaos?
Yeah, I think that's one of the hardest things because most of us who show up as leaders, we're go-getters, right? We didn't get to be in a leadership position because we sit on the back, on the back burner, right? Like we want to be upfront. We want to do for people. We want to give of ourselves. And sometimes we hit a wall before we can really notice what's going on in our own bodies and worlds. I think when things get busy, it's important to have recognized before things got busy. So sometimes you have to stop yourself in the moment. But when things are not busy, it's a great time to self-reflect. How do I show up when things are overwhelming? Am I someone who goes outward and starts, being very energetic and very much in the faces of people because I have this urgency and I got to go, go, go and get it done, get it done. Other people shut down, right? I'm overwhelmed. I got to get out here. I got to go, right? I went through a tornado when I worked at a summer camp in my 20s, and two of our team members on the leadership team, middle of the tornado, they were like, I got to go to the store and go get more tie-dye. Well, certainly they did not need tie-dye in the middle of the storm, but they needed to be out of that situation with all the craziness and all of the 100 kids. Like they needed out. And it's
I
a
gotta
funny
go.
story now. It was not funny for the 8 of us who were left once we
Right, right, right.
left camp, right? So it's it's knowing your own response and then hopefully being able to regulate your own response in that moment. So when you feel yourself getting overwhelmed, are you someone who needs to take a walk? And can you appropriately say, hey, I need 5 minutes before this next conversation. I'm going to go, walk to my car, or I'm going to go walk around the building. Or are you someone who needs to go like do a little dance and get the energy out and be in your office and close the door and like jazz yourself up? What is it that you need that refills your cup emotionally so that you can kind of recenter yourself and ground yourself and remember that you are only human, and there are going to be times when you get overwhelmed, or there are going to be times when you don't feel motivated, and then can you do just one thing, right? Sometimes when we get motivated, we think about, or when we get demotivated, it's because we're overwhelmed and there's 100 things to do. Can we do just
Do one.
one thing?
Do one.
Yeah, just do
So
one.
there's probably 100 ways to say this, but what comes to mind is um, plan, execute, reflect,
Mhm.
and then it starts back over. You got a plan, you start to execute, you reflect on what's happened, go back to the planning stage, and just that cycle just goes over and over and over. So, as an individual, it's very important to be able to do that for yourself before you start implementing that for your team.
Absolutely. And that reflection piece is so hard for a doer to take time
I know,
to do.
I know,
Right?
I know.
It feels like, no, I'll get to that later. I'll reflect some other time. But that reflection is so important. And
Yeah.
understanding and being able to pay attention to what did happen yesterday when I shut down, or what did happen yesterday when I lost my mind, right? And being able to say, oh, this is what led to it. Maybe next time I could try this other one thing, right? Not like, oh, next time I feel overwhelmed, I'm going to do this and this and this and this and this and this. No, next time I'm going to do this.
How did I respond, and was I happy with how I did it? And if the answer is no, figure out something different. Yeah, absolutely. Oh goodness. Jan, anything to add to that?
As you're speaking, Katie, and we talk about the leader taking care of themselves. I think sometimes we get so involved in taking care of our team and looking at what their needs are that we forget about ourselves. And as you were speaking, I couldn't help but think of being on a plane, and they're always saying to put your oxygen mask on first. And I think that's important, because before we can take care of the team and understand their needs, we need to understand ours. And that's hard for a leader. That's hard for a manager to put yourself as a priority.
Right.
It really is. And I hear that analogy and it feels cliche, but in the moment, there's a reason that they tell us that every time we get on an airplane, because our instinct as humans is to help someone else, especially if we're traveling with children or a loved one. We want them to get their mask on, but if we pass out in the process, we're of no use to them either. So we really do have to put on our own oxygen mask first, literally. Yeah.
That's a great title. We need to capture that. That's a great title for a program. Be sure and put your own mask on first. That sincerely. I captured. Oh, that's awesome. Well, I tell you what, I appreciate it. And Jan, you and I talked about this last time. Well, first of all, some of the notes and things that we've talked about today will be down in the description. More importantly, leave us some comments, leave us your feedback, not only about what we've talked about today, let us know what you want us to talk about next. Dave Giacello and I did a recording earlier, and we basically said, hey, ask us a question, we'll answer it in the next video that we do. So this is supposed to be a two-way street. Right now, unfortunately, that's the only way for it to be two-way right now. Is leave us some comments. Let us know what you want to see. Let us know what you want to hear about. Because that's exactly why we're putting these things on, trying to give you guys little tidbits of knowledge, of wisdom. Boy, that sounds knowledge and wisdom. Anybody got any of that to share?
David, I would be real curious if our audience, if they would put the comments in. We focused for so long on COVID and the lack of staffing in the office and how we were motivating, but we were so focused on things of that nature that now that we're moving beyond that, what's important to our audience? What are your challenges with motivating yourself and motivating your staff?
Team.
Have you moved beyond that? Are you still short-staffed? Are you able to restructure workflows? So just digging into it a little bit, knowing what's important and what are the current challenges.
And from our last conversation, what is different from pre-COVID?
Mm-hmm.
How many of you are working in some kind of remote or hybrid situation?
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the things I'd really like to know about, so that we can address differently. Katie, you brought this up while we were talking beforehand, and it's like, we're in this new way, but we're kind of like we were all in. We were all 1 foot in, then we were all in, then we're 1 foot out. Now we're kind of in this 1 foot in. like, what does it look like for you? What does it look like for our audience? You know, what kind of situation do you find yourself in? Please share that with us so that we can make these more beneficial for you. That's what we need. All right, let's wrap that up. So next time we're going to dive into, and we'll remember this, right, ladies? Motivation when things are going well. When everything's good, how do you keep that motivation train going? Okay, so now we have to say like, subscribe, comment. I don't care if you like and subscribe, but comment. Let us hear from you. I appreciate it. All right. Have a wonderful day.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Katie. Thanks,
Thanks,
Dave.
y'all. Thanks for
Bye.
having me.